All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Egglefield. I'm the Deputy Director for Compensation at the New York State Office of Victim Services. I'm joined today by my colleagues Tana Orologio, Cassidy Brock-Doyle, Eric Kuxkar, and Sharday McLean, and also Claudette Christian. If you have questions during this presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat with the Q&A. And we will get to them at the end. This is a relatively short presentation that we're going to be doing. We're going to do this demonstration for you. Just as a reminder, this is a demonstration to go over the changes to the OVS compensation application that are going to go live in the near future. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so what you can expect out of today's webinar, we're going to do an overview of what is going to be changing. We'll go through a demonstration of how the paper application is going to look different. Tana is going to do a demonstration of how the victim service portal is changing. We'll go through some common documentation requirements, and then we'll have some time for questions. This webinar is being recorded. We plan to post this recording on the OVS YouTube channel. And we also will make the presentation itself available at a later date. Although, as you'll see going through this, it's a very short presentation, and we really want to encourage folks who have questions, contact us directly, and we will be happy to help you through the new process. So, why is OVS shortening the application? Right now, it's pretty lengthy. We've had feedback from advocates and from the general public and from claimants themselves that it's too long. And the last thing that we want to do is make it harder for people to actually fill out the application. It'll be easier to submit. The items that are being included are the core items needed for OVS investigators to determine eligibility. It doesn't mean that if you submit a claim application that you're automatically eligible, but we're just making it easier for claimants and victims to get their feet in the door to be able to submit these. We're not really, at the crux of it is that we're not asking for all the same information from all claimants on the same, because we don't need everything. We don't need everything from everyone. We're just asking for information that will help us to be able to determine eligibility. So who's impacted? Victims, claimants, advocates, and OVS staff. So anyone who has anything to do with the application process, this will affect you. So what's changing? The application process itself is not changing. So victims and claimants will still have to submit an application and meet all other requisite documentation requirements required for their specific claim. When will it go live? We heard from our IT department last Friday, November 10th, that they're in the process of fixing some of the defects on the victim service portal that we found during our standard testing. They said that it'll be ready to go live in 4 to 6 weeks. Unfortunately, we're really at the mercy of those application developers. And when I say application in this context, I mean the actual IT application developers, for them to fix these. And the last thing that we want to do is roll something out that's broken. So 4 to 6 weeks, we are hoping by the end of this calendar year. But we're showing this to you today so that you have adequate time to prepare and ask us any questions. So right now, so how is it changing? We're going to do a demonstration, and that's next. So first things first, and I'm going to turn off my video because I am going to have to face a different screen. So bear with me. So as you're looking at your screen, the application on the left is the new one, and the application on the right is the current one. So the first thing that you'll notice, so as part of our application itself, there's currently 2 pages of claims instructions. The first page is really just about the compensation program. What do you need to do? Who's eligible? What kind of expenses do I have? Can I get reimbursed for? And the second page is a lot about restitution. What we've done is condensed this down to one page. So in this newer application, we have tried to reduce the amount of text because we do want people to read it because it's all important. But we are trying to redirect people to the website and our public phone numbers so that you can, if you have questions, please reach out and contact us. Every claim is different. Every claimant is different. Every situation is different. And you might have questions that are really specific to you, and we want to help get you what you need. And yes, the information that is on this restitution page, it was previously many years ago its own separate document, and we're going to make this a separate page again because it also does have a lot of good information, but it just might not be pertinent for everyone. So once again, the application on the left is the shortened one. The application on the right is the current one. As you'll see, this first page really doesn't look all that different. This is not very exciting, folks, until you get to the bottom here. And so what we've done is we're trying to reduce the amount of information that we ask for up front, because it's just not necessary in order for us to determine eligibility. So we still need to know about the crime that was committed. We still need to know about the crime report number, the criminal justice agency that the crime was reported to. But we're no longer asking on this application, where did it happen? Was it related to domestic violence or bullying? We're no longer asking for this upfront, and because frankly, a lot of victims might not even know. So we are going to be asking for this later in the process. We still want to know about where, in the shortened application here on the left, where the crime occurred, the county, a little bit more information, but really that's the crux. That's it. And then this is the second page. So the application is going from 4 pages to 2. So we've taken out the entire section about the suspect. We've taken out the section about specific types of insurance that you need. We've taken out questions from this part of the application process about employment and disability insurance. And if the victim died, we've really just, we've cut out all of this because we don't need to know it for eligibility. So this on the left, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the process, you can see how long it is. And for somebody who has had probably one of the worst days of their life, the last thing that they want to do is to fill all of this out. So we still need to know all of this information, at some point, depending on the claim. But now, and I'm going to close out the current application and I'm just going to expand the new one. So we'll ask for restitution. Has the DA asked the court to order restitution? Did the court order the suspect to pay restitution? Yes. If you know how much, enter it in. About the expenses, this is still important to know because this is how we determine what types of documentation we're going to ask for later. Any essential personal property, again, it's specific, really, we do not pay for personal property on claims where the victim died, but if the victim was injured or if they qualify for essential personal property only claims, this would be here. Just what type, at this point in the process, we just need to know what type of health insurance or what type of insurance you have. It helps us to know what to ask for later. We want to know if there's an attorney. We want to know if the claimant or victim wants us to be able to speak to anybody else on behalf of the victim. And then the authorization statement hasn't changed. Signature, and that's it. This is the addendum. Again, this isn't changing. And it's part of our standard operating procedures to send out a HIPAA form to our claimants. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and I am going to turn it over to Tana Orologio to give you a demonstration of what the victim service portal environment will look like.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First, I want to show you this. One second. So this page right here, over on the left, is the fields that were in the current victim service portal to fill out a claim. On the right is the fields that you'll now have to fill out the claim. So those of you that have worked in the portal, you'll know you're going to save some time. So let's walk through one of those right now. Let me share that screen. Okay. So this is the first screen where you log into the portal. You're going to start a claim. First screen is going to be about the victim. And everything that needs to be filled out, once again, has the asterisk, so you can see that. Here. Definitely a much shorter process. I've done a few the old way, and this literally will not take me long at all. So I think this will be very beneficial when you're meeting with your claimants. A lot quicker for them. So this is going to be all your crime information.
Hannah, for the for purposes of closed captioning, can you make sure to talk a little bit about what you're doing as you're writing some of this stuff?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So what I did just there was input all the crime report number, the agency it was reported to, the county, your date of crime, and the day it was reported. I put that we reported on the same time, so we don't need to fill out the 7 days. We don't also need to fill out if it's over a year from filing the claim. And now we're just going to put what happened. So I was walking down the street and someone hit me from behind. Simple. So here's the questions regarding the restitution. If you do not know them at that point, which chances are, if it's a claim that is just happened, you're not going to know if it's a date of crime. So I'm just going to select not yet. Next. All right, and like Katie said, these are important because this details and lets the investigator know what kind of documentation they need to ask for. So we'll select counseling, essential personal property, we'll put some medical and some lost wages. And then once you do that, because you have selected essential personal property, that field will come up to enter what you're looking for. So we'll just put a pair of jeans at $75. You can add more if you need to. There's a little plus underneath there. And then you're at the, this is that insurance section. So these are all required to be filled out. So you want to make sure you just hit a radio button for everything. You can see there's private insurance, secondary health insurance, New York State Marketplace, New York State Essential Plan, Child's Health Plus, Medicare, Medicaid, disability, workers' comp, veterans benefits, home renters insurance, auto insurance, other insurance, and I'm going to say we have no insurance. The home renter's insurance will be important if you have things like for essential personal property or a vehicle or something like that. And then your next, I do not have a lawyer, so you would just hit select no. Go to next. I am not going to add an authorized person. And that is it. It is done. It's very quick. And then you would just submit, review it, submit it. And I'm missing something, it's saying. Victim is under 18, so I must have, oh, so it didn't save the date of birth. So let me see. Okay, and then your copy of your application comes up. Submit application, yes, and you are good to go. Then you just need the authorization form filled out and submit it in. So it's nice and simple. A lot of fields were cut out, and those fields that were cut out had to do with like the loss of earnings and counseling and medical. Those will be items that are requested from your investigator, the investigator, during the time that they are reviewing it. So I stopped my screen share, and Katie, you're good to go.
All right, thanks, Tana. All right, I'm going to
Yep.
go back to sharing my screen for a moment. All right. Okay. So in terms of documentation, so as I mentioned earlier, and as Tana just remembered for us, like you still need to submit documentation that your investigator asks you for. If we're asking you for something, it's because we have to meet many statutory requirements in order for us to remit payment for any type of crime-related expenses. So what we're doing is we're taking that part out of the application process itself, and we're focusing on rendering eligibility decisions, but we're still going to need a lot of that documentation later on down the road. So if, for example, you are you had your child was killed, and you are the parent, and you are now going to be looking for OVS to compensate you for the funeral expenses. And then you also know that you will need counseling later on. We are going to be asking for a copy of the Criminal Justice Agency report. We'll be looking for a copy of the death certificate. We'll be looking for a copy of the funeral bill, the funeral contract, and we'll also need a copy of you as the claimant's birth certificate, because we have statutory requirements that we can only pay for counseling for certain relatives, and we need that specific document to demonstrate a familial relationship. So things of that nature that we are going to be looking for. What we know as an agency we can do a better job of is communicating that up front. And so that's really what this webinar is about. And the other thing that we're going to be doing is posting on our public website this desk guide. So this desk guide it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's an Excel workbook with 3 spreadsheets in it. And so each spreadsheet is broken up by the type of claim. And I've said this in other contexts, but we understand that you as advocates and the general public, that when you think about a claim, you think of it in terms of the type of victimization, what happened to the person. But we as a state agency, as the Office of Victim Services, we think in terms of claim types, and our workflows and our requirements, we focus on the type of claim that it is. We have 3 types of claims. So there's, there are death, homicide claims. There are personal injury, and that includes the exceptions to personal injury. And then there are essential personal property only claims. And so what I'm going to pull up for you now is this desk guide. And as I said, this will be posted on the public website. But we are just we just want to make sure that folks understand that this is something that can be updated. It's something that you can download and you can use. We've tried to format it so that they can fit on an 8.5 by 11 or 8.5 by 14 page so that you can print it out and literally keep it on your desk and have it handy. So on this first tab here where we have, death claims, types of documentation typically required for homicide claims. So investigator, depending on the circumstances, may ask the victim or claimant for something additional, but this is what we most of the time require from most people. So we've broken this down into different sections. So stage in the compensation process, that's column A. In the first box down here, what do we need for eligibility? The second box down, what do you need to submit during the application and the investigation stage? And then what is needed for OVS to actually remit payment? What is needed for OVS to actually provide that reimbursement? And I'm not going to go through all of these because, as I said, these are going to be available on the public website, but on this next tab, and it's a little bit more information on for personal injury claims. So this is an 8.5 by 11 page, but types of documentation typically required. We have it broken out by common victimization types if folks need to be able to crosswalk that to this type of document. What do I need for this type of victim? And then again, for eligibility, what's needed during the application investigation stage? What does OVS need, or what is OVS expecting to see? And then again, for reimbursement, what does OVS require in order for the agency to remit payment? And last but certainly not least is essential personal property only claims. So again, eligibility, what does OVS need for eligibility? What does OVS need at the different stage of the application process? And what does OVS need for reimbursement? So when it comes time to actually submitting documents to OVS, there's different ways that one can do that. The way that we really recommend is that advocates who are working with claimants or members of the general public who submit their own claims on the portal upload the documents directly to the claim in the victim service portal. This is set up so that the documents get uploaded to the claim itself and go right into our system. On our end, when certain documents are uploaded, that creates kind of a catalyst to start the next part of the workflow. That a task gets sent to an investigator. This is the fastest way. The next fastest way, if that breaks or if it's not working for whatever reason, because technology, never let anything, technological know you're in a hurry. If you have trouble, or if you just have trouble with that or don't feel like it, submit it in an email to the OVS intake inbox. That's OVSINTAKE at ovs.ny.gov. And the next way to do that is to mail it to our office, and the address is provided up here on the screen. And that concludes the presentation part of our webinar. And so we are happy now to start taking some of those questions. And we're going to start with whatever came in the Q&A. Sade, do you want to? So if you have questions, we really encourage you to put it in the chat, because that is the best way for us to record what questions we get so that we know if we put out an FAQ document after this, that we've addressed all of those questions. So please put your questions in the chat. Sade?
Can you hear me, Katie?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there is about 14 questions in the chat. Do you want me to just read them out?
Yes. Yeah, read them out, and then if there's any duplicates, just skip over them, or we'll come.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first question, has the paper application been translated to other languages like Chinese, Spanish, French, etc.? If so, where can we find these translations?
Sure. So the current application is translated into 12 different languages. That application is available on the compensation page on the OVS website. And I'm going to ask Cassidy, while you're there, can you drop the link to that OVS compensation page in the chat for everybody, just so they have it? When the OVS, the shortened application goes live on the portal, on the victim service portal, then we will post the shortened paper application to the website to replace what's currently there. And yes, that is also translated into 12 different languages.
Okay. Next question. Will the assets insurance become irrelevant moving forward? The income and assets were always considered so the state could get their money back. I think this is in relation to financial difficulty.
Yeah, it absolutely will be considered and it will be asked about. However, it is not necessary in order for OVS to determine eligibility for compensation. It has more to do with how much compensation you can get later on. So the investigator, once the claim is assigned to them, they will ask for that information.
Okay. Next question. Is this going to change how quickly applications are processed?
We sure hope so. Sorry to be glib. That is really what that is really something that we are looking to do. We strive for 90 days on average from the time a claim is assigned to an investigator to the time a decision is rendered, either awarding or denying eligibility. Because of natural staff attrition and other workflow related matters, we're at, I think, just about 120 days right now, which is nowhere near where we want to be. So we're hoping that we'll be able to render eligibility decisions faster. However, the speed with which OVS remits payment to claimants all depends on how fast OVS receives that documentation that we ask for.
Okay, next question. When will the new paper form be made available?
The paper form will be made available when the victim service portal is updated. We have been told by our IT department that as of last Friday, it would be 4 to 6 weeks because they have to fix some defects that we found in testing. We are at the final stages, which is why we're doing this webinar. But the paper form will not be made available until the portal itself has been updated so that we can time that correctly.
Okay, next. Who can fill out OVS applications? Crime victims themselves, organizations, agencies, or others?
So we have criteria on who can fill them out. So anyone who is a victim of a crime can fill out an application. Any adult who is a victim of a crime can fill out an application on their own behalf. Parents, guardians of minors when the victim is a minor, can fill it out on behalf of their minor child. Advocates, victim advocates, preferably those who have been trained by OVS, can also fill out the applications.
Okay, next question. It's more of a statement rather than a question, just sharing that Suffolk County does not do any restitution anymore, and they are advising victims to file for restitution instead. The person who posted the statement is listed as an anonymous attendee, but yes, that's the statement that they want to share with the group.
Thank you for sharing. Okay.
Okay, next question. What happens when you select yes for any of the insurance questions? Does it prompt you to provide the insurance information? Are you still asking for dependents insurance information on the online application?
What happens I'm going to answer this literally. What happens when you select yes for the insurance questions is that information is extracted, translated, and loaded into our system as a yes, no, does this person have this insurance? And when I was talking earlier about that will let, that's part of this process that now lets our staff know what to ask for. So if you select yes for Medicaid, our investigator is going to then ask the victim as part of their introductory or, whatever the checklist letters that we send out will be, that's going to ask them, I need your Medicaid ID number, or I need I need to know what Medicaid managed care plan you're part of. You are not going to be, the victim, the advocate, whomever's filling out the application on the portal will not be prompted to provide that on the portal at the time the application is submitted. But to answer the last question, yes, we are still going to be asking for the dependent's information. We're just not going to be asking for it on the online portal at the time the application is submitted.
Next question. How does this affect emergency awards?
This will not have any impact on the emergency award process.
Okay. Not sure if this will be covered, but let's say it was domestic violence. When will we provide that info, and what info is required?
That's a great question. So one of the things that was removed from this from the application were all of the questions that kind of get at the more specific elements of a crime. Was this related to domestic violence? Was this related to bullying? Was this a hate crime? Was this mass violence? That info, the investigator, if they are unable to glean that information from the narrative of the type of crime or from the police report or whatever other criminal justice agency report is submitted, the investigator will ask that information of either the advocate or the claimant.
So I see a few messages stating that the chat is disabled, but it was about 10 minutes ago. I'm not sure if that's resolved or if that's something, as the host, Katie, on your end, you can check, but there are a few.
I'm not sure.
Questions still appear to be rolling in, though.
Let's keep it going. So if folks, I apologize for the chat function being disabled. I would be, in the interest of time, and I see the questions rolling in, I'd like to get through as many questions as we can, Sharday and the rest of the team. So if you have a question, pop it into the Q&A part, and we will be happy to get to you. Any questions that we don't get to during this, we're going to take them down, and we are going to, we'll provide answers afterwards.
Okay. Where can we find the Excel document? I'm assuming that references the desk guide.
We're going to post that on the public website on the compensation page, and it will be under the additional documents section.
Okay. I did not see domestic violence included in the common victimization types. Is there a workflow for DV?
So we understand that that many different types of crimes can be related to domestic violence. And so the way that I describe it is that they are not mutually exclusive. So you can have an assault that's related to domestic violence. You can have a homicide that's related to domestic violence. So that's why it has previously been a separate dichotomous question on the bottom of the application. We've removed those questions because very often we can glean that information from narratives or other communication that's provided during the course of the investigation process. There is not a separate workflow, though.
Since you're requesting the documents and information about insurance later in the application process, will the claimants have more time to produce those documents, more than the current 30 days?
That's another great question. And so really the answer is, in some ways, yes, they'll have a little bit more time to produce because our clock starts ticking in terms of how long we are striving to render a decision from the date a claim is assigned. It can be a few days before a claim is actually assigned to an investigator. So it's what the purpose of this webinar is, and the purpose of providing a desk guide is to remind all of the advocates of what we need at each stage. And so you see in the application, we're asking for insurance information, you can know to communicate to those victims, they're going to be asking you for this. Please, have that handy when they contact you within the next couple of weeks. I don't have an exact time frame, but really it's the sooner we get documents, the sooner we can, the sooner we get any documentation, the sooner we can move forward with our workflows. And so if the person is looking for reimbursement for medical care, getting their insurance, proof of insurance, any explanations of benefits that show the patient responsibility portion of the bill directly on that explanation of benefits, all of that will still be required and it'll still be important. They might have a little bit, as Audrey's indicated, you might have a little bit more time.
Will a crime report be required for all applications?
Yes.
How long does it take to receive the response if the applicant mails out the OVS application?
That is a good question. And that really varies depending on the volume of applications that come in. We currently have 3 individuals who are working in our claims intake unit, and we really prefer for most claims to be submitted on the portal. Right now, I think we typically run about 3 or 4 weeks lag from the time a claim is submitted, and that is true for both paper and claims that come in on the portal. So I think that ends up being about 6 weeks is the time that you would receive some sort of a confirmation that your claim was submitted, that your claim was accepted and it's been assigned to an investigator. But that's really a rough estimate. It really depends on our volume.
Does the online application prompt victims or VAPs to upload all typically needed documentation to at least get through eligibility?
Another really good question. And not currently. But that's something that we can keep in mind for future. So we have our business analyst on the line, and I'm hoping that he's taking that down as he's nodding his head, taking that down as a suggestion for future. But that's also why we recognize, even though our system has various limitations, we know at least posting this desk guide out there will be somewhat helpful to some people.
Okay. So each page on the desk guide has those sections, and they are more or less the same?
Yes, they're more or less the same. It's the same idea. They're not meant to look all that different, and it's really, we're trying to make it easier for people outside of our agency to understand what we need at different parts of the process.
Regarding the questions about health insurance, what would be considered New York State Essential Plan?
That's a New York State Essential Plan is a specific product that's offered by the New York State Department of Health. It's for beneficiaries who don't quite qualify for Medicaid, but who make less than it's basically catches people who are, it's a specific product is what I'm trying to say. People who don't qualify for Medicaid, who might not qualify for other subsidies, but who are not necessarily have to pay full price for different insurance products. You can, if you have more questions about that, I suggest that you reach out to the New York State Department of Health, but you can Google New York State Essential Plan to find more information.
Can you show us how to submit the evidence in the portal?
Tana, do you want to bring up that page where we can come back to this too if you want to, we can move on to another question and come back when you're ready. To show how to like upload documents to claims.
Yep, hang on 1 second.
All right, we'll move on to the next question, but just let us know when you're ready.
Okay. Here we go, hang on.
Oh, okay. Tana's ready.
That would be, I believe, and I haven't done this, so, but at the end where you submitted the claim, here's where it says upload document. I believe if you select that, okay, and then you would, same thing like if you were to upload to your computer or something, I would imagine you would I said, bear with me because I've never done this. So yeah, you would just find the document on your computer and just add it in there and upload it. And you can have an explanation there of the document. And here, I guess you can only, it's called, your only option at this point looks like a claimant authorization signature.
Hannah, there
form.
were two different selections. So there's a section where you just upload the claimant authorization form, which
Oh,
we failed to
okay.
mention earlier is still required for the victim service portal. We have been having conversations with our IT department about finding some way for us to make it available, but we agreed with their assessment is that they want us to see this go live before they start doing anything else fancy because this is the biggest change we've had in a long time. And so just while Tana's showing this on the screen, we're shortening this application. Our next priority really is making sure that this seeing if we can have this functionality be available on a mobile device and tablets. And then hopefully during that same time, we'll be having more talks with them about how we can allow basically, I'm not sure if some of you are familiar, but being able to sign on an actual signature on a digital device. But we're still in talks with them. It's a little more complicated.
So, in the other section here, so when you want to upload something, now you have an option to select what it is. If it's a funeral bill, a birth certificate, hospital records, you can select that document type, attach it there, and then in your document explanation, you can, explain what it is if you would like, and then just upload it.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next question then. What documents may be asked for someone who experienced loss of income or their job due to being injured? Does OVS reimburse undocumented individuals too? Does there need to be a successful conviction if the case is already closed for the application to be accepted?
Okay, I will take this. So briefly, documentation. I'm just documentation for loss of earnings. It can be an employment questionnaire, depending. We will need a doctor's note or a disability letter, but it just depends on what kind of employment they had at the time. We do not take into account any citizenship status of any sort. So anyone we can put in a claim. It doesn't have to be, it could be a tourist, it could be anything, anybody, but we don't look at anybody's situation in that case. And there does not need to be a successful conviction if the case is already closed. The conviction is not what is going to bring us to get the eligibility award at all. We just need that criminal justice agency report to show the crime.
Great, we'll move on to the next question. For cases where the decision has been rendered and there are ongoing medical expenses, should we continue to upload relevant documents to the portal or email them to the additional medical unit?
Yes, you should email them to, oh, actually, Sade, do you want to answer this one? This is your, this is your wheelhouse. What do you prefer?
Sure, yeah. You can continue to upload them via the portal, or you can email them to the additional medical unit. Either one is just fine by us. It's a matter of your preference and what's more convenient for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there still a delay in processing OVS claims?
Yes, there is still a delay, but it's not any, it's not as dire a situation as it was 6 months ago. Things have improved. We went down from about 140 or 150 days, and we're back down to around 120. And the reason why is because we have had, we've been able to hire more staff.
Okay. I'm actually going to jump to a question, jump ahead a little bit. It was posted in the chat, not the Q&A, and it's just asking, will there be training for VAPs beyond today? And I think that's a great question for the group.
Yeah, and I did type in the chat too, just so everybody saw. So we're going to be updated every month, and it's been standard for a while. OVS offers VAP compensation trainings. Those are links to register for those trainings are uploaded on our website. And you can feel free to register. This information will be incorporated into those standard trainings. Just going to update them. But we are going to, this webinar is being recorded and we are going to post it on the OVS YouTube channel.
Next question.
Oh, wait, one second, Sharday. Like that said, I mean, there are 200, there's been about 300 people on this webinar today, in and out. If there are others who wish to, if we get a big influx of people later on who want to see this again, you can reach out to us directly, but really the first thing that we're going to tell you is ask is what you need answered that wasn't covered in the first webinar. So really encourage people to look for that first, because it's a big lift for our relatively small agency to do lots of individualized training.
Do they need their photo ID attached with the documents?
No. We
Sorry,
don't require, no, we don't require a photo ID.
I mean, perhaps that you might need to use that for proof of age, depending on what you're asking for, but it's not mandatory that it's attached with applications. Okay, next question. Hello to you too, Grace. What if the claimant doesn't have the receipts due to domestic violence?
So for this one, we understand, we do understand that not everyone would have receipts, but we can accept original or replacement. But in the case of a domestic violence victim or any victim in which they had to flee their home or they had to leave their things behind, whether it was to go into shelter or they had to leave for their safety and they were staying with somebody and couldn't bring their things. In those cases, we do not require receipts. The three cases would be an arson claim, human trafficking, and domestic violence in which they had to flee. And then if they don't fall under that purview of people, everything can always be reopened when receipts are obtained if they purchase anything in the future.
Okay. I am new to completing an OVS application, only being able to submit by mail. Can I create a personal account as an advocate to submit multiple claim applications?
The short answer to that is yes. What I encourage you to do is to send a direct message to Eric, who is one of our panelists for today. And Eric is really your best case for helping you get set up with an account and figuring out what you might need to do. So Yadiris, if you want to email or message Eric, and Eric, I don't know if you want to put your email in the chat just so that if others have questions, they can reach out to you too.
Can I just mention something, Katie? Just please do not go make your own personal account with your work email. Do not make your own. You do not make anything yourselves. Please just reach out to Eric, because then it makes a long line of hardness.
Okay, next question. If you select no under the none option under the insurance page, and you have no other insurance options selected, will it allow you to move on to the next page?
Yes, you'll be able to move on.
Next. Sometimes when we put information in the OVS application, if it is not fast enough, it deletes the information. Is this something that will be fixed as well?
Can you please send a specific issue to the OVS info inbox with the claim number or numbers in which you're seeing that issue? That's not a widespread problem that we're aware of at this time. So if you can please send us an email and we will get to the bottom of it. And that goes for anybody, if you're having
My
issues with
program
the
works.
portal, oh, sorry, Sharday, I didn't mean to cut you off. If you're having
No,
issues
that's
with the
okay. Go
portal,
ahead.
the only way, thanks, Michael. So the only way that we're really able to know about these problems is if people report them. And so please, if you are having these specific issues with the portal, email the OVS info inbox, and we will do our best to get on our IT team to get to the problem, get to the root cause and try and find a solution.
My program only works with senior victims. A victim might have capacity now or be healthy now, but not necessarily later on. So can we submit the required documentation together with the application as we've been doing, rather than waiting until it is requested by the claims examiner?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that that's a really important point to make, that if you have been doing this for a long time and you know what needs to be submitted, or even if you're not, and you have all this information that you know is pertinent to the claim and will be important for someone to get reimbursed, absolutely submit what you have. There's no need to wait for it to be asked for it. The more information we have up front, the faster we are able to render decisions and remit payment.
Next question. Depending on the crime, how long is the process approximately? Has the time lessened as well, or is it more or less the same amount of time as before?
It's actually gone down. And I was just sharing this with staff earlier today. So as of mid-year this year, we were up to, on average, about 140, 150 days from the time a claim is assigned until a decision is submitted, until a decision is rendered. And we are down to about 120 days on average, which is actually less than what we were this time last year, and is less than what we've been pretty much since 2020. So we're on the right path. And it does not, yes, it typically takes longer for personal injury or exceptions to personal injury claims. Right now, as of last month, it's about 114 days. For EPP only claims, where we currently have one person working these, it's 107. And then for homicide claims, it's 94 days. And that does not include emergency awards. That process has not changed.
Even though fields such as suspect are not on the portal application, that information may be required later, correct?
That is correct. The investigator will ask for that information at a later stage in the process.
Would you say OVS claims are for people who are on the lower income side?
That's not something that we've looked at specifically, but I think that it's an interesting question. I would have to actually look at the data in order to answer that accurately.
I'm sorry, like my audio glitched out. Did you finish answering the question,
I did.
Katie?
Yes, I did.
Yes, okay. All right, for DV claimants, I've seen that police reports are missing information or the charge is not accepted by OVS. Some of my clients also just don't feel safe going back to their home after a DV incident. A lot of times there is physical, sexual, financial abuse. But if the police report is lacking or includes a charge that is not accepted by OVS, client do.
So there are certain police departments, and just depends on the type of criminal justice documentation that we do receive, it where there aren't any charges. So for domestic violence, it's a little bit different. So if there are no charges, or if it's a charge that may not be accepted by OVS, we do all of our domestic violence claims prior to being just denied, will be run through our attorney, Shelby Foster, and she will determine if any of our exceptions can be applied to that crime. If for some reason there are no charges and there's nothing on there, we can also, the investigators can also call a detective or an ADA, and we can confirm the charges that way. There's other ways that we can go with it as well.
We are at the end of the meeting. So what we'll do here is we will collect all of the questions that have not yet been answered, plug it into some kind of document with the answers, and distribute it to all of the attendees.
Thanks, Sade. And just to close it out, the new application, we will be sending out a email blast similar to what you got to announce this meeting, that will announce the date, the go live date for when this is going to, for both the portal as well as the paper application. So you can, as soon as you get that, and as soon as we hit that date, then you can start using it. I truly and sincerely wish that I had, believe me, I wish I had the exact date for when we could go live on this. We are still just at the mercy of our IT team. But if any of you have questions in the interim, you can email our inbox for the, you can send, give us a call, and we will be in touch. So thank you so much.
I did. I copied and pasted them.